Have you ever walked into an op shop or Vinnie's and just been overwhelmed by the sheer vastness of what's on offer? Well, you can fear no more because joining you now is Angie, an absolute expert, I have to say, on recycled clothing. She's the owner of Me and You fashion brand, which restores vintage wear, as well as one of the op shop vintage tour guides from Classy. Thanks for joining us, Angie.
Oh, hi there.
Now, how did you get into thrift shopping?
It's one of those things that I've always done since being a young girl. I used to go to jumble sales in the UK with my grandparents, and I always really enjoyed buying secondhand clothes, maybe altering them to fit, and that's what took me through my love of fashion, really, and that's what made me choose to study fashion at university.
Now, what are the perks of thrift shopping?
Well, one of the things which is always good is the price.
Yeah, because I know some people I have to say, my mum, when I first started thrift shopping, she thought all the clothes I'd bring home were diseased because somebody died in them. So she was very against.
Yes, it's certainly an acquired choice, really. But as you'll often find with your own wardrobe, how many of those clothes are sat in there that you've never actually worn? How many are you quite happy to give away to a sister or a friend? And I think that second-hand and recycled clothing is actually the most eco thing that you can do when you consider how many clothes are thrown away and undisposed, unused, unloved. So if you can get into the mindset, then there's affordability, and also you can choose something really original and different. You're not going to wear the same high street looks that all your friends are wearing, and you can put together something different so you can really stand out.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, it can be quite an overwhelming experience. If you're going for the first time, you've just entered a Vinnie's and everything's just everywhere.
And that's right. And that's why Classy asked me to put this tour together, because my tour, there's a couple of tours with the Classy brand, but my tour is the Inner West Op Shop tour, and that really concentrates on your local thrift shop, your local Vinnie's. We do have a couple of independent stores on there, but what I really do is kind of give you a compare and contrast story and talk you through it. I'm going to handhold you, so it's not going to become scary and daunting. But yeah, admittedly, your local op shop isn't a big department store. It requires a little bit of skill to shop through there, and that's where I can come in.
Well, what kind of gems and finds have you thrifted through some of these?
Well, we've been running the tour since August this year, and every fortnight I've taken people around these op shops, and we have had some amazing store finds and purchases, whether or not it's some original 70s shift dresses with some crazy patterns, some really good quality jackets, wool skirts, things like that, some designer brands, one little Escada jacket cropped up at the weekend just for $25. What a bargain.
Oh, I know. I've once picked up a Marc Jacobs handbag for $30.
Oh wow, that was one to remember, definitely. There's often some really good accessories in these stores, and it just all depends on your personal style as well, because some people might, think that Escada's too dressy or that they wouldn't wear it, but they'd be quite happy at something from a few seasons ago from from the higher end department stores, and that, or it classes as vintage because it's second hand, and there's no problem with wearing that if you like it and it suits you. So there's so much out there on offer.
Yeah. Now, does location actually matter? Since I find that a lot of op shops, they kind of reflect a lot of the area.
Yes, that's right. You find in more affluent areas, then a lot of the op shops tend to have, a variety of designer labels, but you'll also find that they're maybe a little bit more expensive. And one of the great things about the Inner West is that it's really quite affordable. You've got, things in most of the op shops around sort of $8 or $10, which if you're shopping in the city centre locations might be sort of almost double that. So certainly kind of getting out into the undiscovered areas means you're more likely to pick up a bargain. And you get a real cross-section of things available as well, because quite a lot of the op shops in particular have depots where they might sort and then redistribute their clothing to each of the different stores. And then we've got the independent stores as well there who source clothing from worldwide. And yeah, they're a little bit more expensive, but you can get some really great gems. Fancy a pair of 1970s vintage flares from America? Well, you're going to find that in an independent store.
That's true. You can't find flares anywhere anymore. So, what are your top places to shop then?
Well, I do love the op shops. I don't dress exclusively in vintage clothing. I like to mix modern, streetwear, classic pieces with a little bit of vintage. And I like to vary my wardrobe quite a lot, actually. So one time I might be looking very 50s, and the next minute I might have a bit of a 90s thing going on. So I don't tend to stick to one particular thing. And I think that's why I choose not to real shop at the high street stores, because you get dictated to about what it is that they're trying to make you wear this season, instead of, well, I just fancy wearing green.
Sounds like a good plan. Now, just to finish off, what are your top tips for thrifting about in Sydney?
Well, I think the thing is to not get too daunted by the way that the shops are laid out, and choose a couple of things in mind that you might be looking for, because it will help you look through and quite often spot something completely different, but it will give you a focus in mind. And I think that's one thing to remember when you thrift shopping, is to have some clear ideas of what you might want to look for in your wardrobe.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for joining us here today on Drive, Angie.
Thank you.